Hey everybody, we're here at Red Rocks Racing Sportsbook. Chuck, this is Jason for the Sports Betting Podcast Bookends. Well, Jay, this is it. This is the first real weekend that it's actually college and pro football. We had week 0 in college football. We had a full slate last week, but this week it's for keeps. Pro and college football. I know I've said it a couple straight weeks, but I'm going to say it again. Yay, sportsbooks. I'm excited about it.
No, and I think the thing to be excited about is we're still offering the up to $500 promo on STN Sports sign-up, so no better time to get in. Obviously, college football, pro football, the basketball, WNBA finals that we got going on. Baseball is in full swing here with the pennant races, and you can get that up to $500 bonus for all new sign-ups. So great time to get in the book to sign up for that, as well as Last Man Standing.
Yeah, Last Man Standing, our signature football contest, guys. Actually, our signature contest that we offer throughout the year for different events. But pro, $150,000 guaranteed. College, $100,000 guaranteed. Don't forget, you can sign up until 7:30 Saturday night, 7:30 p.m. You have to use the last games. And for the pros, it's 5 p.m. on Sunday night. And that gets you the Sunday night game as well, or the Monday night game, your choice. But they're great contests, same format as we've always had. $25 for one. Sign up for 4, though, for $100. You get the 5th one, a bonus one free. There's a lot of big contests out there. I know those are fun, too, but huge entry fees. This one, $100 each gets you 5 entries, and you have a chance to win either $100,000 or $150,000.
Yeah, and if you come in and sign up now, you can put your picks in already for week 1 and make basically one trip into the book, and you're all set.
So we're going to kind of start this week with college football first. Just a really kind of a brief recap of last week. We saw a lot of the big, double-digit favorites get there. It was good for you guys who backed those teams. Some of the really good games we saw last week, though, the Florida-Utah game, the way that game ended was sensational. The LSU-Florida State game, Brian Kelly, he gets his team to come back. They score with no time, have the extra point blocked. And then on the Monday night game, to kind of finish off the weekend, we saw Clemson kind of make a quarterback change. We'll see what ultimately is going to happen there against the Georgia Tech game that was really kind of ugly from the Georgia Tech side of it. But overall, it was fun to have college football. Great crowd, great atmosphere. You can just tell the electricity and hype in the room was crazy. I really enjoyed last weekend with college football.
Yeah, you talked about all those big favorites coming through. We had a lot of the over 14 to 21 points favorites were pretty much clean sweep and were able to do a lot of covers. The one that didn't, NC State, about a 14-point favorite over East Carolina, and we were really pulling for East Carolina to pull that outright upset, and their kicker Duffer missed an extra point to tie it up at 21, and then East Carolina got the ball back with a chance to win the game on a final kick, and he missed that one as well. So we're going to see a lot of that each week, but East Carolina, hopefully they do a little bit of a rebound this week.
I think we're always saying, oh no, college kickers, but sometimes it's for us, sometimes it's against us. 2 other big games, you saw Ohio State not cover against Penn State, and you saw Georgia cover against Oregon.
Well, Ohio State against Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, I'm sorry. Yeah. And then you saw the Georgia cover against Oregon. So
yeah, the 2, obviously, Alabama, Georgia, we've been talking about them the last several weeks, and we're actually thinking about putting up a prop, Alabama versus Georgia, whether in the playoffs or in the championship, putting that number up. But both of those 2 teams came right out of the box. Alabama, obviously, with the 55-0 win over Utah State, and Georgia probably even more impressive with the fact that they 49-3 win over Oregon and really made Oregon look silly. And Stetson Bennett kept right where he left off in the national championship. Looked absolutely fantastic in that game. So Georgia and Alabama clearly on a collision course somewhere down the line here.
So let's jump into some of the big games this week that have some of the ranked teams. Number 1, Alabama plays Texas. Bama's almost a 3-touchdown favorite in this game. It's kind of a cool side note that you have Saban against Sarkisian. He had given Sarkisian that opportunity again. But some interesting kind of trends here. Alabama is just 13-7 against the number as a double-digit favorite in their last 20 games, and Texas is 5-0 against the number, getting double-digit points in their last 5 games. So a couple of interesting trends there. But again, you look at this Bama team. Just not sure Texas can hang with them or not. 3 touchdowns, a little bit under 3 touchdowns. Just seems like it's too short against Alabama.
Well, Texas was able to put up to 52 points on Louisiana Monroe, obviously kind of in a tune-up game, and they've got
Wait
a superstar.
Who did they put up 50 points against?
They've got a superstar in Bijan Robinson at the tailback position. Obviously, Alabama, very, very difficult to run the football on, but maybe he can catch a couple passes out of the backfield, keep that Alabama offense off the field, keep the Texas offense on the field, and obviously the young man Quinn Ewers transfer from Ohio State to Texas. This is a chance for him to make a big statement from that standpoint, Obviously, those fans in Texas are going to be riled up. We'll see how Matthew McConaughey can get those Longhorns going. But
he's going to try.
This Alabama team doesn't have many holes, so it's going to be tough for Texas to exploit it. And we'll see if they can, essentially cover the 21-point spread.
Right, that's going to be a good game. Another with two ranked teams. You have number 24 Tennessee and number 17 Pitt. We've seen this number come down a little bit. Tennessee is just 4-11 their last 15 against ranked opponents against the numbers. So that could be one of the reasons we've seen this number start to dip a little bit as well.
Well, Hendon Hooker, a quarterback for Tennessee, going on the road here. Obviously, Pittsburgh, we saw last week in the nationally televised game against West Virginia. Slovis played absolutely fantastic. Kind of a strange thing here. You have Pittsburgh as the 17th ranked team in the country. Tennessee as the 24th ranked team in the country. And the 24th ranked team in the country is essentially a touchdown favorite on the road at Pittsburgh. So that really tells you what kind of respect the SEC gets versus all the other teams throughout the country. So that'll be interesting. I expect this number to somewhat come down. I think there'll be some backing for Pittsburgh plus the 7 points.
Well, talking about the SEC, the first big SEC showdown of the year is Florida and Kentucky. We've seen this number tick up just a little bit in favor of Florida. I thought Richardson looked phenomenal in that game last week against Utah. Kind of his coming out party somewhat. Definitely in the Heisman discussion early on. Maybe the first quarterback off the board in the NFL draft. But this game, we've started to see this number go up a little bit in this big SEC showdown in favor of Florida now.
Yeah, Kentucky got their tune-up against Miami of Ohio.
Right.
Not particularly impressive against Miami of Ohio, but again, how much do they actually want to put on tape for Florida to be able to see? Kentucky won this game 20-13 last year in Kentucky. They had a 100-yard kickoff return in that game. So Florida's waiting for them to come down. This is also going to be a 7 o'clock game down there in the swamp. So that tailgate's going to be pretty impressive. That crowd is going to be loud come 7 o'clock. We'll see if Will Levis, obviously a highly touted quarterback that Kentucky brings down. Kentucky's got one of my favorite players in college football, running back Kavasi Smoke. What a great name.
I love that name.
I said I wish he was a wide receiver to be Kavasi Smoke, but a good tailback, kind of a 5'9", 200-pound plus running back that they'll try and run the ball. Florida did allow a little bit on the run. Utah was able to run the football, so if Kentucky can try to control that clock and not let Florida run the ball back on it. But this is going to be a really, really difficult place to go play with the nighttime game down in Florida.
Absolutely. Another game, this is kind of similar to what we talked about in that Tennessee game, is where you've got Baylor, who's the lower seed here, against BYU. I know this game is in Utah, but you've got BYU a favorite here against them. Some interesting trends here, too. You look at Baylor, 7-1, their last 8 games against the number against ranked teams. And you look at BYU here, 0-6, the last 6 games against the spread at home against top 10 teams. So something has to give as far as those two trends kind of go. But it wouldn't surprise me. We've seen some early action on the BYU Cougars. I think Baylor's going to get some love, though, before this game kicks. It wouldn't surprise me to see this game go back down a little bit.
Yeah, another one, obviously, talk about the rankings and the reverse spread.
Right.
BYU, again, a 7-15 game going up to Provo. Jaron
hasn't
Hall
bothered Baylor, though. Yeah. I mean, again, they played really well against
they'll go on
ranked
the
teams.
grass. Baylor obviously likes to play it fast, playing on the turf. They'll go up to the grass there. Puka Nuku, another awesome name, running back out of Utah. Jaron Hall's been fantastic. BYU just continues to pump out quarterback after quarterback. But again, this is the ESPN night game, Baylor-BYU, so it'll be interesting to see where that action goes. But I think you're right. BYU looked good down in South Florida program that may be down a little bit, but still to put up 50-plus points down in South Florida. And they look good on all ends. I think offensive, defensive, and special teams as well. I think they had a touchdown on special teams. So BYU looks like they're clicking early.
Just want to touch on, too, you've got UNLV playing Cal this week. We've seen this number come down just a little bit, but a little bit under 2-touchdown underdog now for UNLV after their impressive showdown or their impressive win in their first game of the year.
Yeah, USC travels up to Stanford and kind of a big game early there. And one of the games that I'm looking forward to, you don't often see in college football a total of 40 points, but Iowa State travels to Iowa, where we saw Iowa win a game last week with 7 points, and they didn't score a touchdown. They had a field goal and 2 safeties. So Big Ten to only be able to score 7 points and have 2 safeties in a game. It'll be interesting to see that rivalry play out there, Iowa State and Iowa.
I'm going to go the other side. You're talking about a lower scoring game. This is kind of an interesting trend, too. You look at Southern Cal and Stanford. This is the 4th time since 2005 that the combined total for these two teams has been 60 or greater. It's 67.5. The previous 3 times, they all went sailing over. So USC's in the top 10 again now, and that trend kind of favors that these two teams will score a lot of points, and that game will go sailing over.
Well, they've got some Heisman hopefuls down there, and Williams and Addison, and they want to put up those points. And
they almost scored that by themselves last week. So, but anyway, that's kind of the college football slate. We just wanted to kind of highlight some of the bigger games this week that we look at, especially when you've got some ranked teams going up against each other. I think these are 4 or 5 really good matchups this year that's going to generate some tremendous handle. And again, the atmosphere and the crowd in the book should be sensational. Don't forget everything you see kind of in the book, you're going to be able to get on STN Sports, as well as Jay touched on. Great time to sign up right now, up to that $500 bonus. We're going to take a slight break now and come back, and we're going to jump right into pro football on the Sports Betting Podcast, Bookends.
One of country music's finest.
Somebody else will find on.
Justin Moore, live in concert. October 13th, 8 p.m. The Sandbar at Red Rock Resort. On sale now. Purchase tickets at any Station Casinos Reward Center. Online at stationcasinoslive.com or ticketmaster.com.
He can't even bait a hook.
Justin Moore live.
Hey everybody, we're back at Red Rocks Racing Sportsbook for the Sports Betting Podcast, Bookends. And as we touched on in the intro, Jay, I'm excited. Pro football is here. You've got the defending Super Bowl champs, the LA Rams, hosting the Super Bowl favorite, Buffalo Bills, on Thursday Night Football. I know the crowd's going to be into it. There's going to be a ton of props on the board. We saw the Bills come so close last year, that loss against the Chiefs, and they're the betting favorite in this game. 56% of the tickets are on the Bills. 61% of the tickets are on this game to go over. Great matchup to kick off the season on Thursday Night Football.
Well, we see the defense on these two programs expected to be Super Bowl contenders, but it's really the offense.
Right.
Obviously, with Stafford and kind of getting what we think is a clean bill of health for Matt Stafford to come out of the year. Obviously gets Allen Robinson, who the Rams pick up for the Bears to basically replace Odell Beckham Jr., and obviously the all-world Cooper Kupp is going to be there. So the Rams have their weapons ready to go.
And Akers and Henderson should be healthy as well at running back. There was some question about that, but it looks like both will be available on Thursday night.
And Josh Allen, obviously the consensus number 1 quarterback off the board in essentially every fantasy draft. Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, the weapons are there. Isaiah McKenzie could be a sleeper there. Singletary, Dawson Knox, again, laundry list of offensive weapons that are on both of these teams, and I think that's why you see that high total.
Yeah, I think it's going to be curious to see just how the Rams kind of respond. They do lose Von Miller to the Buffalo Bills in the offseason. This is going to be a fun game, though. It's a great way to kick off the season, and I think the schedule makers did a great job, again, defending champs versus the Super Bowl favorite. So it should be a great game to kick it off on Thursday night.
I'm interested to see what they do with Jalen Ramsey from the Rams side of things, whether they kind of put him on Stephon Diggs or whether he kind of rotates around. The Rams don't always...
He usually doesn't always travel. He's on one side of the field.
They don't necessarily lock up a guy. It'll be interesting to see how they use him as a defender in this game.
Right. So we're going to break down a few more games, guys, that we think have some interest. Raiders-Chargers. 66% of the tickets are on the Raiders spread and money line. 76% of the tickets are on the over in this game. And you look at this game, these two teams, of course, in the same division, played twice last year. It was week 3 last year. Raiders were undefeated. They went into L.A. They trailed 21-0 before ultimately losing 28-14. They beat the Chargers the last game of the season. It was kind of you win and you're in, you lose and you're out. They were able to win that game. This is a huge game, I think, for both these teams to kind of kick off the season. No J.C. Jackson, though, for the Chargers. Khalil Mack will be there, of course, with Bosa. We're going to be huge Charger fans in this game. Raiders, again, 3 of their first 5 games against divisional opponents. We'll know how good they are really quickly, but this is one of the biggest bet games of the week so far.
Yeah, and I think you're going to be able to say that for several weeks with the Raiders, with
especially if they're good.
With our home here.
Right.
They're a fan favorite. You talk about the dynamic players that they have. They're going to be heavily bet. Obviously, the rivalry here that's begin with the Chargers, and obviously Raiders knocking the Chargers out of the playoffs last year. But you talked about it. The Chargers have that really good pass rush. The Raiders' offensive line could be called one of their weaknesses of the team, so that really could be what this game is about. If they're able to stop Bosa and Mack, and on the flip side, it's really Max Crosby and Chandler Jones for the Raiders. They're going to have to get to Herbert because the Raiders' weakness would be kind of in that secondary standpoint. And the big question here is Davante Adams.
Right.
What kind of impact does he have right out of the gate for this team?
I think that's, when you look at the two big moves in the offseason, one was Tyreek Hill getting dealt from the Chiefs to the Dolphins, and then, of course, Davante Adams from the Packers to the Raiders. That's the big key. Who's going to miss who more? Will Adams miss Rodgers more, or Rodgers miss Adams more? He's got that rapport with Carr from college at Fresno, but I think that's going to be a big part of it. This game's going to be fun to watch, I think. They split last year again. The Raiders were way behind in the game last year in L.A. before they came back, but we'll see ultimately what happens. Game has come down a little bit. I mean, we sit on that key number now. I think it's going to be hard to get us off that 3.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of different guys in the backfield, whether it's Jacobs, White, Abdullah for the Raiders. But I think the Raiders come out throwing here. We've seen Waller back at practice. I think they'll try and get the ball to Renfro. And I fully expect Davante Adams to get, I'll call it 13 passes thrown his way in this game as Carr looks to go after the Chargers right away with his new weapon, Davante Adams.
All right, so we talked a little bit about Adams now, and we mentioned Hill. So let's kind of go into the Patriots-Dolphins game. This is a Dolphin team with huge expectations this offseason. They make arguably the biggest splash or second biggest splash getting Hill. They're the favorite against New England here. 65% of the tickets are on Miami in this game. And you look at their skill position players now for Tua. You've got Jalen Waddle, you've got Hill, you've got Gesicki, you've got Chase Edmonds, Mostert. You've got a ton of talent on the offensive side with a good defense. The expectation level for Tua is really to take this team to the next level. We've got kind of some mixed reports in the offseason on the Patriots offense with Matt Patricia calling it. You do have Mac Jones. They did trade for Devontae Parker in the offseason, but the Dolphins are the favorite here. Patriots kind of uncustomarily getting points in week 1. What do you think about this game?
Well, I think the big question is which second-year quarterback takes the big step. Does Tua take a big step here? Can Mac Jones take a big step here? Mac Jones played what I thought was way over his head last year, put together basically a really great season and led the Patriots to that playoff push.
He was almost Rookie of the Year if it wasn't for Jamar Chase.
And the Dolphins were disappointing, and I think that's why the Dolphins did exactly what they did this offseason of going after Tyreek Hill. And you talked about it. They did not only just add Tyreek Hill. They added Chase Edmonds. They added Mostert. Waddle has just come back to practice. He kind of didn't really play much of the preseason stuff, so we'll see where he's at. But I think as far as the ability to take that next step, Tua's really got the weapons to be able to go a step further, especially with a guy like Chase Edmonds, who isn't so much that between the tackles runner, but a guy that he's going to be able to dump a lot of passes off that should add to that yardage for Tua.
I know the last couple of years, every year we kind of talk about that quarterback. I know 2 years ago it was Mitchell Trubisky, that we talk about who's that kind of quarterback, team, or coach that's kind of on the hot seat a little bit. I think you can make a case that this year, with what Miami did in the offseason, that Tua is probably that quarterback that's on the hot seat more than any other quarterback in the NFL.
Well, he needs the Dolphins need to decide either we're sticking with him or we're getting rid of him. I mean, it's the same situation we're in, strangely enough, with the Ravens and not signing Lamar Jackson and basically saying, I'm going to pay this guy this much money.
But I think in Jackson's case, it's not a question of ability.
Him as the future. Just how much are they going to pay him and how much are they willing to?
In Tua's case, even in preseason, you saw Hill open at times, and he underthrew him, even though Hill came back and made the catch. So I think it's going to be interesting to see just how Tua kind of meshes with that offense. Hill has said all the right things, but we know he's the kind of guy that loves the ball. If he's open and behind the secondary, if he can't get the ball thrown to him, there's definitely going to be some issues there. Another game we'd like to jump into and look at right now is the Browns and Panthers. This game probably would have been a nothing game a few months ago. We wouldn't even have been talking about it right now, but it has one of the greatest storylines going into the season right now with Baker Mayfield now playing for the Carolina Panthers against the Deshaun Watson-less Cleveland Browns. This game's been interesting. It's kind of ping-pong back and forth a little bit with Carolina being a slight favorite. One of the highest ticket counts in all of the games on the board for pro football is on Carolina. What do you think about this game?
Well, it's on Carolina for, it was expected to potentially be Deshaun Watson. We move over to Jacoby Brissett. They acquire Amari Cooper. Obviously a very good defense and a two-headed running back in Hunt and Chubb. That's absolutely fantastic. But the Carolina Panthers for 3 years are the Carolina Panthers in the first 4 weeks until McCaffrey goes down, and then they fall apart. And so there's a ton
You heard that, fantasy owners.
There's a ton of optimism in Carolina right now as you bring Baker in, you got DJ Moore, you got Anderson, but most importantly, you've got a healthy Christian McCaffrey. So, I mean, he's a game changer.
Right.
He's a guy that can absolutely dictate the field. So that's why you're seeing all this money on the Panthers. And if he can stay healthy, they're going to win a lot more ball games. In particular, obviously, the Baker Mayfield wanting to get back at Cleveland and the way that their kind of divorce kind of happened. And so that's why I think you're seeing so much money on this Panther team.
It really is an interesting game because you look at Carolina, and they also pick up Laviska Shenault in the offseason from Jacksonville. He's got a good kind of skill position surrounding cats there. Can Baker kind of excel in that role? Maybe getting out of Cleveland, getting that pressure of being the number 1 overall pick. He was on every commercial. I mean, maybe this is a good opportunity for him. I think it's a great game to watch, though. I think it's going to be fun to see how Baker Mayfield plays in this game. Another game we're going to look at, guys, is Cardinals-Chiefs. Now, 70% of the tickets here are the Chiefs. We've seen this number jump up a good 1.5 or 2 points in the last 48 hours. We know that the Chiefs are relatively healthy. We know no Hill. They've had some big off-season acquisitions, especially Smith-Schuster and MVS Scantling. And you look at the Cardinals, though. I mean, no Christian Kirk, no Hop. Can Kyler Murray do enough with his offense without those two guys to keep this game close?
Yeah, you talked about this. This has probably been one of the biggest line movers of the week. Chiefs were kind of a 3.5-point favorite. This game has gone all the way up to 6. And part of that is because of the question marks with the Arizona Cardinals, in that Zach Ertz is questionable to play here week 1. Rondale Moore is questionable to play week 1. Hopkins is out. Christian Kirk was traded to Jacksonville. So there's a lot of new pieces of the puzzle, the big one being Marquise Brown, who they acquired from the Ravens. Obviously, that Oklahoma connection with Kyler Murray. James Conner essentially takes the backfield over by himself with the departure of Chase Edmonds. They lose Chandler Jones on the defensive side of things. So a lot of changes in Arizona, and a lot to be excited about in Kansas City, even with the departure of Tyreek Hill. You talked about Smith-Schuster, the addition of Sky Moore, the young receiver.
MVS.
Yeah, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire gets kind of a backup in Isaiah Pacheco, who's been absolutely fantastic, young man out of Rutgers. And I think that Patrick Mahomes has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder over the whole Tyreek Hill scandal, we will say, just because of Tyreek Hill's comments.
Some of the stuff he said
after he left and stuff like that. And I think there's even with comments that were made about, he's a good quarterback, but Aaron Rodgers is an absolutely fantastic quarterback. I think that we're going to see Mahomes play with a big chip on his shoulder this year.
Yeah, I think so too. It's an interesting matchup, though, because both these two quarterbacks can definitely open it up. We saw Kansas City have some struggles on the road last year, but again, a huge ticket count on Kansas City in this game. Let's turn to the primetime games now. I think the schedule makers did a great job, too, of giving us some good primetime games. Sunday Night Football, you've got Tampa Bay traveling to Dallas. It's kind of a 50-50 split on the ticket count, but we've started to see the number creep up a little bit. I think that's a product of looking like Tampa's going to be relatively healthy, that Godwin might be playing in this game. We know Dallas will have no Michael Gallup. It doesn't look like it, at least. They traded Amari Cooper in the offseason. They've had some injuries on the offensive side of the ball. CeeDee Lamb is going to be expected to be the guy now. They've got Dalton Schultz. They're getting points at home on Sunday Night Football. I think it's a great way to kick the season off for Sunday night.
I feel like these two teams, you should cue up the soap opera music when we talk about these two teams. What Jerry Jones with Dallas, the whole Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard. I just feel like it's a soap opera story of what's going to happen and the hopes and dreams of the Dallas Cowboys. And really, to me, it rests on Dak Prescott's arm, CeeDee Lamb.
I'm going to interject one thing. I know we talked about, I thought that Tua maybe has the most pressure on him as a quarterback. I think the coach that's on the hot seat the most is probably Mike McCarthy. I think the expectation level in Dallas is that he does take them to the next level. But bigger than that is you've got Sean Payton now sitting in the booth, kind of lurking over his shoulder. Jerry's made comments about him. Sean Payton, I think, has kind of referenced the Dallas job as well. I think if they get off to a really slow start or they're not playing well at the midway point, I think Sean Payton's a prime candidate to kind of move into those shoes.
Yeah, I think Dallas is under a ton of pressure, and it's really all on Dak with kind of a lack of depth at the wide receiver position with James Washington, who they acquired from Pittsburgh, being hurt, Michael Gallup being hurt. You're going to have to see some of those younger guys step up. Maybe even Tony Pollard starts catching some more passes out of the backfield or lining up in the slot. And then obviously on the soap opera side of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the end of last season to the unretirement of Tom Brady to the fights with his Giselle or the plastic surgery or all the other stories that have been out there. I mean, it's a soap opera feeling for both of these two teams.
Is this STN or TMZ? I just got to make sure we got the initials right.
I just feel like there's an incredible distraction down in Tampa. Who knows how it'll play out in these two games, specifically on the Tampa side of things. Brady, the question is, can he just prove everyone wrong again? He's got weapons up the wazoo. Obviously, they
Russell Gage, Julio Jones,
who didn't have a big season down in Tennessee, but again, only need a couple plays down there to be successful, and they still have Fournette, and they've got all those things on the Evans and Godwin on the offensive side of things. So Brady definitely has the tools. It's just a matter of where is he at with sitting out this whole preseason, and then where is his head at from a family standpoint?
If Julio is healthy, and all indications are that he is, and Godwin's back, and Russell Gage as well. I mean, you talk about the weapons they have there with Mike Evans, and it's strange, but Julio's not even a starter. He's going to be a kind of that guy. Maybe he becomes the red zone target that Gronk was. He never was that in Atlanta. Matt Ryan always seemed to struggle to get him the ball in the red zone or in the end zone. Maybe he's that now. So we talked to soap opera a little bit. If you want to really talk a soap opera, it's Monday Night Football. The end of week one, the schedule makers. Well, Russell Wilson, you were traded to Denver, but guess what? Week one, you're going to play in Seattle. I mean, how could they schedule that any better? The highest ticket count over any team in the league is the Denver Broncos. 87% of the tickets are on Denver. 69% of the tickets are on the over in this game. Russell Wilson will be in the other locker room, on the other side of the field, wearing blue and orange against Geno Smith. My guess is we're going to be huge Seattle Seahawks fans on Monday night.
Well, if the week doesn't go with many winners on the book side of things on Sunday, the Monday night liability is going to be absolutely horrible because, like you said, all the tickets are going to be on the Broncos. Everything's going to be rolling to the Broncos. Currently at 6.5. We'll see if this game can get to a touchdown. Not a lot of optimism in Seattle. I mean, obviously, maybe Ken Walker has a chance to come in this game.
They still have Metcalf and Lockett, though.
Yeah, but what I mean, they're going to want to beat Russ and the talented receiving core that he gets. But we've seen this Denver Bronco team be able to compete and play in the AFC West, what we think is the toughest conference or division in football. Right. They've got a solid defense. They've always had a solid offense. Their number one problem has been the quarterback position, and now you go get Russell Wilson to add to Javonte Williams.
You hear that, Seattle? They went and got Russell Wilson.
Gordon to go with Sutton and Judy. I mean, they're loaded on offense and what he brings to the table. If he can get a little bit of running with his legs back into his game, which he kind of didn't do last season in Seattle, Denver's going to be a very, very scary team.
Well, it's obvious that Denver didn't think this was a short-term fix. They just gave him a brand new 5-year, extension, so they expect him to be there for a while. I can tell you that if the scores kind of do go south a little bit, like you said, going into Monday night, you and I will both be wearing the 12th man T-shirts because we're going to need that 12th man to come through big time.
I have a feeling we're going to be needing Seattle a lot this season, not only in week one, but I think Seattle's going to be one of those teams that the general public is really picking on, betting against.
Right. It's kind of a perfect storm. Again, Russ going back there, Monday Night Football, last game of the week, and that's why I think we're seeing the highest ticket count on that side. So this is kind of breaking down the pros a little bit. We're going to come back, guys, and we're going to kind of go through the good, the bad, and the ugly, touch on a little bit of fantasy football as well. But we're just excited, again, that we have both college and pro this week. Don't forget to get signed up for Last Man Standing, STN Sports, and we'll be back to wrap it up with the good, the bad, and the ugly, and a few other tidbits here on Bookends.
It's football season, baby. And you know what that means. It's time to bet your buns off. And when it comes to sports betting, you better bet with the STN Sports App. So what in the heck are you waiting for? Download the STN Sports App today and trust the local favorite.
Hey guys, we're back for the final segment of the Sports Betting Podcast Bookends, and we kind of touched on this last week, and it was Stephen Money's fantasy football fever. So it's back again. We're just going to give you a couple of guys that we like at quarterback, wide receiver, and running back this week. We'll expand on that some weeks with defenses or tight ends, but we'll kick that off before we finish up with our favorite segment, the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right, so quarterback. For me this week, week 1, I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts. I know they're on the road, but they've now given him that number 1 wideout in A.J. Brown. We saw what Josh Allen did when he got Stephon Diggs. I think with Devontae Smith, Goddard, the legs of Hurts, and now getting A.J. Brown, Hurts is my quarterback this week to kind of go off week 1 in fantasy football.
I'm going to stay with the guy that should be at the top of all quarterback lists this week, and that's Lamar Jackson going up against the Jets. Still waiting for a contract, playing with a chip on his shoulder. A mess in the Raven backfield right now with J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards out, potentially starting Mike Davis at running back. I look for Lamar Jackson to get it done on the ground and in the air to Bateman, Andrews, Duvernay. I think Lamar Jackson accounts for all the touchdowns, both rushing and passing this week for the Ravens.
I love that because he's on one of my fantasy teams, so that's kind of good news. Running back, I'm going to go with Delvin Cook. I think that game, Minnesota against Green Bay, is going to be a shootout. I think having new head coach Kevin O'Connell from the Rams, I think he's not only going to be used in the run game, but he's going to be used in the pass game a lot as well. I think Delvin Cook has a monster game week 1 against the Green Bay Packers.
I'm going to give you a little sleeper coming out of Jacksonville with ETN at the running back position against the Washington Commanders. James Robinson, we know he's going to be in the mix there from that standpoint of that backfield, but week 1, Robinson hasn't been around. I think Jacksonville uses him all over the field, both running and catching the football, and he has a solid game.
I think it's interesting that's the choice you make because he missed the entire season last year. He missed his entire rookie season, but he should be the guy. Wide receiver, I'm going to go off the grid a little bit, and I know we kind of talked about Baker Mayfield and what will his impact be with the Carolina Panthers. I'm going to go with DJ Moore. I think now that he's got a quarterback like Baker Mayfield, you've got McCaffrey back, you pick up Laviska Shenault, you've got Robbie Anderson, you've got enough weapons there. DJ Moore has always put up big numbers, but for whatever reason the last couple of years hasn't found the end zone. I think he scores week 1. I think he has over 100 yards receiving. I think DJ Moore is my wide receiver to have a big week 1 in fantasy football.
I'm going to tell you to start the guy that's going to have the biggest Thursday night. You'll take the lead in all of your fantasy with Gabriel.
I wonder who that is.
Gabriel Davis, wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills.
Gabe Davis.
I think that Ramsey's going to kind of key up on the other side of the football. We knew Emmanuel Sanders gone, Beasley's gone. Davis is going to turn into a stud in Buffalo.
Just remember, Gabe Davis against the Kansas City Chiefs in the last game he played last year in the playoffs, he had 4 touchdowns from Josh Allen. So that's kind of our Stephen Money Fantasy Football Fever, which is a new segment on Bookends that we'll be featuring every week. Now, kind of our favorite segment. John, cue up the music. I can see him right now. The good, the bad, the ugly. Let's start out with the good. I'm going to throw it to you. What's the good that you found in week 1?
I've got 2 goods. Number 1, I got to go back to just U.S. Open tennis. It's been absolutely awesome. I mean, I'm sitting here every night watching these tennis matches, both the men's and women's. It's been absolutely great.
It's been great.
Continue to enjoy the upsets and going on in the women's tennis. But I'm going to have to go back, and I've got to issue an apology for my ugly last week. I poo-pooed on the Toronto Blue Jays and called them the ugly, and specifically Bo Bichette dropping to 7th in the batting order. And as soon as I did it, he must have been watching our podcast and said, man, forget those guys. And he comes out, and since the calendar's
We're
turn,
sending you a capo.
Since the calendar's turn here in September, he's got 4 home runs, 15 RBIs, and a 3 home run game in Baltimore. So, caps off to you, Bo Bichette. Heck of a week, player of the week, and you're in the good.
You're in the good. You said you had 2, right? You have another one?
My U.S. Open.
Okay,
that was my other good. So.
All right, I'm going to go bad now. The last football game of the week, the last college football game, Clemson and Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech seemed to be in that game. They played a really good game, but you try a 52-yard field goal that you miss to give Clemson a short field, and you get 2 punts blocked in that game. Just, kind of a horrific performance throughout the special teams guys on Georgia Tech that night that really enabled Clemson to cover the spread in that game, which was really good for you guys, but bad for our side of the counter.
Yeah, it was Jeff Collins is the head coach of Georgia Tech, and they've had 3 consecutive 3-win seasons, and he's kind of on the hot seat, and you have a chance on national television to come out. And with all due respect, they played pretty good.
They did,
in that first half, and then just
but
kind of fell apart.
But you can't make mistakes like that against a team like Clemson.
Most importantly, they got down 34-10, number at 24, which was the number that was on the game. and he got the ball back with about 6 minutes to go, and he ran the ball into the line 3 times, didn't attempt to pass. Then we watched the young star for Clemson, Cade Klubnik, come in, lead him to another touchdown to take the 41-point lead, and then he gets the ball back with 2 minutes to go, and he runs the ball on the line again. And so from that standpoint, just really upset and the bad of the Georgia Tech team and essentially the coaching staff quitting on those players late in that game. And the other bad in that game, we mess up the last name, but DJ Ukulele for Clemson, he just doesn't look good. He doesn't look like the guy that's
They might go to this freshman.
That doesn't look like the guy that's going to get them to a national championship.
I think there's a reason that Dabo went to the freshman quarterback to kind of see what he could do on the big stage. I know they had a comfortable lead, but it was still on Monday Night Football, college, the last game of the week. He wanted to see what they could do. I thought he played a phenomenal game for the short time that he was in.
Yeah, I mean, the series he had, he looked great, and like I said, DJ just does not look good. And so for Clemson to make a run at this national championship, there's going to have to be a change there, or DJ Ukulele's got to play a whole lot better.
All right, let's go to the ugly now.
I'm going to go back to baseball. Maybe I can reverse the fortunes the same way I did with Bo Bichette. I can reverse the fortunes of the Miami Marlins, who are my ugly this week. They've lost 8 consecutive games. In those 8 games, they've scored 12 runs. They haven't been shut out, but they've only scored 1 or 2 runs in those 8 games. And so the stink is coming out of Miami. Find a way to get competitive. Find a way to get some offense. Miami Marlins, you are the ugly this week.
I can hear the whistle right now. But before we leave, now we have to talk about UFC 279. Chimaev and Diaz. I think we're going to have a huge handle on this fight. It'll be shown closed circuit here. It's going to be a fun fight, and there's already a huge handle on this UFC event.
Well, you're getting Diaz at a monster number. He's a 7-1, 8-1 dog out there.
Chimaev's 11-0 though, 5-0 since joining the UFC, and he's an animal.
Yeah, well, the one thing, you know what you're going to get out of Diaz. You're going to get a brawler. He's going to get beat up, and you're just hoping for that one hammer to come down and get that knockout.
He's a warrior, no question.
And really, when you look at this entire card, it's a card that's got a lot of, we'll call it, fighters that are somewhat a little bit senior in age, where we've got a lot of 34, 35, 30-year-old fighters that have had 5 to 6 losses in their UFC career. So could be a great card to see some epic knockouts and some great finishes as we've got some fighters that have shown the ability to get beat in the past.
As you can see, guys, we're not excited at all about the upcoming sports weekend.
Well, you forgot even more. What goes on Sunday in the WNBA?
Oh, yeah, the Aces. Congratulations first to the Aces. I mean, getting to the finals again, winning that series 3-1. They looked primed to hopefully bring Vegas our first championship in a major sport.
A question mark to the schedule makers as to why the opening game of the WNBA Finals is going to be at noon on Sunday here in Las Vegas. But going head-to-head
with the Raiders,
head-to-head with football, I question that. But obviously the Aces getting in, we'll see who their opponent's going to be as that series should finish up here soon.
It should be a great sports weekend. Again, we've talked about all these college football games, kind of the ranked teams playing each other. The first full weekend of pro football, UFC 279, the Aces. It's fun, guys. I know I've said it a few times. Jay has as well. Great time to get signed up for STN Sports right now. We love when you guys come out and experience everything we have to offer here at Red Rock and all of our properties and all of our race and sports books. But get STN Sports. It brings the sports book to you, up to that $500 bonus. Don't forget, get signed up for Last Man Standing. College is 7:30 Saturday night, 100,000 guaranteed. Pros, 5 p.m. Sunday, 150,000 guaranteed.
Let's get it done.
All right, guys. Again, this is the Sports Betting Podcast Bookends. We'll see you next week with a bunch of fun stuff.